And 2 and 1, and we are live. Hi, everyone. This is a surprise to our guests because I did not count us down. But welcome. welcome, everybody. Come on into the stream. The water is fine. The water is fine, my friends. We have an absolutely excellent show for you folks today. I'm super excited about it. We got some absolute stars. I guess just to intro everything, we're going to be exploring how AI, blockchain, and privacy-first infrastructure are converging to power the largest self-sovereign human network. Joining us are Life AI. We got our friends over at Fusion, and we got our friend over at Avalanche to discuss how this model is going to be reshaping smart cities, healthcare, as well as digital identity, as well as putting control back in the hands of users. From city-scale deployments to privacy-preserving clinical trials will impact the real-world impact and the road to mass adoption, my friends. And to help me do that, we've gathered some absolute stars. We have Tuan Cao, Life AI's co-founder and CEO. Say what's up, my friend.
Hey, man. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on, my friend.
Enjoy the show.
Oh, yeah. Trust me. We got you on here. We already know it's going to be a good show, my friend. I'm also joined here we had David here, core contributor over at Fusion. Say what's up, my friend.
What's up, everybody? Happy to be here. Last stream was amazing. This one's going to be even better because we got Tuan.
Let's go. What's up, Life of Jenny? Good morning, my friend. I am also joined here by Giancarlo of Avalanche strategy architect. Say what's up, my friend.
What's going on, guys? Happy to be here.
Happy to have you, my friend. Super happy to finally meet you. And let's you know what? I'm not going to tease the folks too much this time. We're going to just straight up dive on into things here. So Life AI, can you kind of give us like a little tidbit of like what you folks are kind of building over there, just so we can start to kick things off, and then we'll kind of dive into the details from there.
Okay, so let's say that we often surprise people that we started Life AI about 8 years ago. Right now, we are building on top of Avalanche, but I always make a joke that we started before Avalanche did, okay? So 8 years of building things, and we started at a Web3 company, actually. And then we had to build a Web2 business to prove the Web3 infrastructure actually work. Okay, so a totally different way of building a business, and very happy to work with the Avalanche ecosystem. I'm a big fan of Avalanche and great supporter for them. Yeah. Okay, and about Life AI, we basically doing a lot of things to provide AI. Like basically, we build in the platform to combine AI, blockchain, and crypto to provide a self-sovereign healthcare.
I see.
Yeah.
All right. Now it's time to dive.
Self-sovereign. Yeah.
Now it's time to dive into these details, my friend. For one thing, really quick, since you kind of started off before the age of Web3, what kind of inspired you to say, hey, all right, blockchain is kind of the natural next step?
Okay, so that's a great question. So actually bring back the history of like 2015, 2017. So at that time, we was focused on the genome for the Asian American, okay? And you still remember like 23andMe was a very big player in this world, okay? And there was, at that time, I think around 2016, 2017, there was a big protest against 23andMe in the Bay Area. Say that, hey, man, 23andMe, you are man in the middle, you hold the data, you can do a lot of things about the data. So at that time, we want to find an angle to compete against the giants, okay? And we say, hey, sure, we need to find a way to provide the data ownership, the privacy, and the access transparency to the user, where the user really own the data, own what they really the owner. So basically at that time, blockchain is a perfect fit, let's say very naturally fit with that problem we want to show.
Okay. Actually, that's actually kind of brings up an interesting kind of question in my mind. What was the landscape? What's the landscape like kind of currently before blockchain for, let's say, data storage? that you're kind of working with right now in healthcare?
Yeah, so a very typical, very traditional, that is a centralized storage, centralized ownership. So basically, like everybody doing a genetic test will basically sign a consent form and say, oh, sure, you can do whatever you want. And of course, 23andMe and other companies, they do a great job to provide HIPAA for privacy. They also say that, okay, hey, are you interested in joining the research? But most of the users, they don't know about the consent form, right? No one will basically care about reading the consent form, okay? And so they basically sign it, get the test, enjoy it, but later on they find out that actually the DNA can do a lot, okay? And not only the DNA, a lot of other like personal data in the world, in healthcare. So most of the time it's still like in the hand of some of the just a few of like a big player who basically hold user data. Okay, it's still the case right now, mostly in the world. There's only a few companies trying to tackle this problem, and Live AI is one of them.
And so you have these kind of big players in this space, and they're centralized. They're kind of holding on to these folks' data. Can you tell me, like, why do you feel like that's like a huge issue, specifically in kind of the healthcare kind of realm?
Okay, so let's break this question into like several parts. The first one is what happened if you join a market that was already an existing giant? Okay, are you a David to fight against a giant? And actually 8-10 years ago, that was the case. Okay, there is no way for us to compete with 23andMe. Okay, they have deep pocket, great scientists, great technology, great market, great almost everything. Okay, so for us as a very small guy, a small startup, what we want to do, we have to find a niche to go. So that's why like blockchain for data ownership, data privacy, and access transparency is our key player to compete against the giant. Okay, but this day I feel so happy. Okay, so I keep on I am in a lot of national television right now in like outside of the US. And one thing I keep on telling people that this is an era of AI. So 5 years ago, 10 years ago, there's a big gap between the US and other countries. But the advancement of AI makes that gap much smaller. Okay, whatever Google is doing today on, let's say, clinical trial or drug discovery, Stanford doing a lot of things for like what they call CRISPR GPT. Okay, we can do it like almost in about like several weeks after them. Okay, for example, of course, I have a lot of respect to the researcher in the US to basically started a lot of great things. For example, Stanford with CRISPR GPT, Microsoft with Microsoft DxO, and Microsoft claimed that, okay, they can do diagnostic 4 times better than a doctor. Okay, when they release that finding, our team can reproduce that work and can actually provide a similar framework within weeks. Okay, and in the past, let's say 5-10 years ago, that would take years. So that's why, like, you can see the technology company in the US normally have like several years ahead of other company. But this day AI moves so fast. Okay, if you get to something, immediately after like maybe 1 or 2 weeks, someone will be able to reproduce your job. Okay, so that's why at this very much time, it's a great opportunity for other, let's say, smaller to compete against, let's say, the big guy like Google, Microsoft, and so on. Okay, and especially in healthcare. I can talk about healthcare for the next three days, but it's more fun. Okay, yeah.
Actually, so we can kind of compare AI as the rock that David threw at Goliath at that point. Also, David, I saw you. David, I saw you kind of unmuted there too earlier. Did you have anything that you wanted to
add? I think that the genetic component here is one aspect of kind of having interoperable healthcare data, because if you think about what we're doing here with Fusion, it's blockchain ecosystems that are basically focused around not selling block space, but creating outcomes. So part of what Tuan was referring to is that at this point, there are challenges in terms of leveraging decentralized science data or broader healthcare data to get healthcare outcomes in individual silos. There's also issues if you want to have a holistic view of a person in relation to combining different biomarkers. So last time when we were on with Kite, we talked about, the agentic internet. Here's how you can think about having composable agentic resources to drive better AI outcomes for end users. In this case, it's how can you have composable biomarkers for humans or ways of understanding different data points about humanity that can be leveraged and combined in different ways to generate better clinical trials, more, better healthcare apps that reach more people. So the Tuan has built, and the Life AI team has built, I think one of their region's best genetic testing business. That's kind of one piece of the puzzle here. We have large amounts of biomarkers for genetic data. Now we have to go get it for, blood data, for gut biome data. So only if you have these combined parts can you actually work to create better human health. And what this does technologically is you have the ability to track all of these resources in the context of a business network, reward contributors, and ultimately create a platform in a marketplace that leads to better health outcomes. So we talked about this on a vertical basis for AI specifically last stream that we did. This is, if you remember, we have composers and modules. So composers are the ecosystem managers. They're the on-ramp to the ecosystem. And then we have modules, which are either inputs into a workflow around something like AI or decentralized science or DeepIn, or someone who's going to be a distribution channel for the underlying, modules that are providing workflows. So in this case, we talked about Kite AI as the base layer for the agentic internet last time and the various composers and modules that fit in there. This is the decentralized science composer for the Fusion ecosystem. And the objective is, it's the human network, as Tuan likes to say. It's how can we allow better health outcomes by both eliminating the barriers to accessing human health data within specific areas like genetic testing, and also between different markers for human health, which could be a wide range of things because we can collect data on lots of health-related outcomes. So once again, this is not about, blockchain is used because it's a beneficial piece of infrastructure to deliver better health outcomes to end users. That's the reason why we're doing it. We're not doing it just to store data. We're not doing it to just generate transactions. We're leveraging the principles of back-end blockchain infrastructure to promote better health data, and that can include things about human identity. It can include different, payment mechanisms that are built into the process. It can allow you to access AI agents to determine, what your personal health profile for be, or what things could be beneficial to your health. So there's kind of like a individual, or in terms of research studies, figuring out what makes sense by also leveraging technological resources. So this is what it ties together here. It ties together the technological with the financial, with the identity, to provide back-end infrastructure for powering a human network that would not be possible on traditional technological platforms. So I think that's what it's important to keep in mind as we talk about this. This is a big vision, probably an unreasonable vision that Tuan has, which I really like. Those are the best type of entrepreneurs, those with big and unreasonable visions to change the world here. And this is the framework that we're using to do it. And the opportunity is there because we have the ability technologically and from a business construct to put people in a network that will actually generate real value for both individuals and people trying to, life sciences companies. So you can think about this as a very different type of network. This isn't speculative. Tuan, maybe you want to talk about all the work that you've done in Vietnam and other places, and how this has really had a real impact. And, as I said, we're just been focused on the genetic aspect here. We haven't had the opportunity to combine that with all sorts of other biomarkers to make it even stronger. So I just wanted to provide that context. And I think if it's okay with you, we'll have Tuan talk a little bit about the real world implementations. He's done some really cool stuff.
It really is really good to set up the context. But yes, thank you so much. Anyway, that's what I said. That 3 days I can talk non-stop about this. But let's talk about Giancarlo, right? Something about because I'm a big fan of Avalanche. We are the core team of Avalanche was also from Cornell, where I got my PhD. So I had a lot of respect, and also in my biased opinions, Avalanche has one of the best engineering team and the infrastructure for scale.
Yeah, we call that the Cornell Mafia here. If you went to Cornell or any affiliation. For those who don't know, our founder was a professor at Cornell for many years. But yeah, I mean, just to speak that very quickly, you mentioned earlier launching initially in Web 2, and that's a question I feel like a lot of companies have in tech as well. Why go to Web 3, right? Like why, for a while adding blockchain to your name meant that you double in market cap. I don't know if it does anymore, but so that was one reason. But the real reason is that there's things you can do in Web 3 that you can't do in L2. And so I think in this example, the speed, the privacy, the connectivity, even the privacy, the monetization, there's things that you can do on the blockchain that you can't do in Web 2 traditionally. And then the larger question, okay, you're in Web 3, why Avalanche specifically? There's many other L1s to choose from. Avalanche is an L1. It's known as an L1, but in this context, it's worth pointing out that Avalanche is actually a network of L1s. We have our sort of main chain, our C chain, which are liquidity hub, permissionless. Anyone could launch on it. But we also have a network of what is and will soon be many. We have about hundreds now, but will be many hundreds probably by the end of the year. Layer 1s built on Avalanche, and those are fully customizable in terms of virtual machine. You could use an EVM compatible one like our C chain is. You can have a custom validator set, your own token with its own structure. It can be a governance token, can be whatever you want. So you can build a fully customizable layer 1, and that's sort of our thesis, just to zoom out a bit for Avalanche, is that the future of Web 3 and the future of business in general will be that everyone has their own L1. And it used to be, to use a metaphor that we like around here, it used to be unthinkable to have your own website 20, 25 years ago. Why would you need your own website? Who even knows how to make one? The barrier was too high. Even if you wanted your website, you need a webmaster. You need to hire engineers. Who knows engineers? But now it's commonplace. Everyone has their own website. You need your own website. Every supermarket has their own website. So we see a similar thing happening with L1s, and I think the news with Stripe and Circle recently launching their own L1s is sort of proof of that. That is, for everything from small companies to big companies, you kind of want to own your network. So that's our broader thesis. And what makes Avalanche different from any other competitors that may offer something similar is that we have Avalanche Wort messaging, which allows for interoperable communication between L1s. And this is sort of, I can let David expand on this, but this is sort of the basis of Fusion. And the thing that I like most about Fusion is that it could really only be built on Avalanche. So there's this idea that we have our main chain, our C chain, our liquidity hub. Anyone can launch anything on pretty much. We have this almost like a solar system of L1s, if you want to think of it, all floating around that are connected to the C chain, but they're also connected to each other. And that's how Fusion was architected, is that you have these almost like hubs, these composers, and then you have this ecosystem of data, storage, analytics, these other L1s and other data sets that you can plug into them and that communicate, you can draw value from. And so what that enables you to do, whether it's DSI or DPIN or really anything like that, did we lose David? There he is.
No, now he's not. He'll be back. He'll be back.
Yeah, he'll be back. Just taking a break.
So my son walked in here to change his clothes. So I thought I'd spare everyone, see you try to do it.
I thought you got bored of us, David. But as David too. You can create new economies and new incentive structures that allow for new things to be built in such a way that, most layer ones, the token is the product, and you just want to fill up the blockchain to get people to use the token. We think of it exactly the opposite way. There's too much block space as it is. So what we're folks here at Avalanche is creating more block space, paradoxically more block space, but hyper-focused, hyper-specific. And we think that's going to be the future. And I think LifeAI is a great example of that.
If I could talk about the Fusion origin story, people who were on the spaces last time met Chi. So I talk with Chi every week, and I talk with Tuan all the time as well. So I had a call with Chi, and we were talking about this concept, and we didn't call them composers and modules at the time, but she said, "Oh, you're talking with Tuan. I really need some of this healthcare data that he has for all the agentic services they want to provide." So I talked with Tuan, and he said, "Oh, well, I need some of these agentic services that Chi provides." So if you think about the ecosystem, that was my aha moment, and I think G and I probably talked later that week about it. Said, "Oh, this could be something really interesting," because what's cool here is that Tuan is going to have for LifeAI all of these modules. She's going to have a bunch of modules that are more AI focused. Tuan's modules are DeSci focused. We'll have an RWA composer. They'll have more financial primitives. Now, if you think about, we're targeting 5 composers to roll out over the next 12 months. Each composer has 20 modules. That's 100 total modules. So there's lots of network effects here in terms of capabilities, because once a module has been onboarded that provides, I'm just making this up, GPUs, or that provides access to LLMs like Google DeepMind or an OpenAI, anybody, any of the workflows that Tuan needs to put together through LifeAI for end users running clinical trials can automatically just be onboarded. So you can think about what the Fusion ecosystem is. It's a ecosystem of composers that allow services to be consumed together. It's an ecosystem of services provider who provide inputs into workflows. And then there's also distribution modules, which provide routes to market for the underlying workflows. So if you were to look at the user personas within Fusion, those are the 3 types. We have the composers. We have what we call below-the-line modules. So those are the service inputs. Then we have above-the-line modules, which are distribution channels. So distribution channel in this case might be the American Cancer Society. They might want to be leveraging all sorts of different biomarkers to leveraging LifeAI to do better cancer research, which is, I think, a really interesting topic. That would be an example of an above-the-line module. Below-the-line module, we've talked about. That'd be genetic data. It could be an LLM model that's basically trained to triage across different pieces of individual health data in different systems. So that's the construct we're basically utilizing here. And you can imagine that this will probably look very different than other types of, layer 1 or base layer ecosystems, because once again, we're not super concerned with block space. We could have a Solana-based project that wanted to, decentralize clinical trials on Solana, plugging into the LifeAI composer, consuming interoperable services, and by default, also interestingly, creating demand for block space on Avalanche. So there's all sorts of, if you kind of reconceive what a blockchain ecosystem is supposed to be and what its purpose is, you're going to see outcomes and things happening that you might not expect, that are a bit different than what's happened before. And I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Actually, Fusion is really cool. But anyway, this day, whenever someone asks me, okay, what is the foundation of LifeAI? Okay, so the foundation of LifeAI is basically a network of human. And the foundation of LifeAI is a network of human, and it comes with a lot of their own personal data. You can consider it as the ocean, right? And then we need a mechanism for people to consolidate the data. You can consider the water, say, evaporate, and it consolidates to be the cloud. And the cloud come with the rain, the airdrop to the river, and the river will bring the value back to the ocean. Okay, so it creates a complete flywheel. Okay, and this day I'm talking a lot with a lot of let's say even like Web1 company. Yeah, because of very traditional healthcare. And then I say that, okay, we don't need to say a lot about technology, about like how awesome the blockchain works, how awesome the crypto can make the flywheel spin much faster, but anyone can come and play. Anyone can come and play because they can see that at the end of the day, they can create a product, bring the value back to the human network. Okay, let me go back to what David said about like 15 minutes ago about the human. Okay, so I used to make a joke that I don't need to follow Elon Musk to Mars because exploring ourselves is already complex enough. Okay, there's still a lot of things you have not understand ourselves yet. So you can consider Live AI provide you as a platform. It provides you for a difference like experts or let's say entity, Web 1, Web 2, Web 3 to go and provide a different, like let's say, open up a different dimension for a human. Okay, the best one can go and provide the dimension for Parkinson. Okay, another one will basically come and provide you the dimension for your IQ, okay, or your EQ, whatever. Okay, another one will come and say, hey, man, we are expert in colon cancer. Okay, so whenever you come to the Live network or the Live AI, it's a network of human, and for each individual, the most beneficial thing you receive is an ability to unlock a different dimension of your life. You go there on top of your mind, right? You want to understand how your microbiome works. You go to Live AI, you go to the marketplace, someone will provide you that personalized, let's say, microbiome information. Okay, you can see how your microbiome works. Okay, you want to understand about the risk of Alzheimer. You want to understand about how to reduce weight. That's a big problem, right? Okay, you follow one of the Miss World and then see it very different from yours. You try to eat the same like her, but you still breathe in the air and gain weight. Okay, and you ask yourself why? Because our DNA is very different. Each of us are very different. So that's why on the Live marketplace, we'll provide you the best personalized, optimal weight loss program for you. Okay, so basically that's the beauty of a platform where anyone can come and build a product to unlock another dimension of your life. Okay, so one thing we go and sell to other company or other partner and say, hey, don't work alone. Hey, David, don't work alone. Come and build on top of Live AI. You can do it 10 times faster and 10 times cheaper. Okay. For example, we build, David keep on saying about we have to build a Web 2 company, a genetic test similar to the 23andMe for Asian. Okay. Any product, we have like 35 different genetic tests for the Asian population. And each of these will normally take about like 24 months to 36 months to build and develop. Okay. But these days, whenever we go to Japan, Korea, go to Indonesia, and we talk with people and say, if you want to build another GENETICA product, you can do it like in 3 to 4 weeks. So it's 10x cheaper and 10x faster. Okay. So that is a beauty.
How do you achieve? Sorry, David. I apologize. That just kind of like
you go first. No, I'll go after you.
That just kind of like threw me there because you said like 3 years to like 2 weeks. How do you achieve that?
Okay.
So to piggyback onto that though, so talk about your vision in terms of how the number of services can scale almost linear with the number of humans that are part of the network, because I think that gets to the question as well.
Yeah. So David's question is really hard to explain because I'm like still very academic. I need a whiteboard and draw something. But
I'll explain that. Why don't you answer the first question? I'll answer my own question.
So I talked with Preeti about how we can achieve, hey, come and build on top of Live AI. It's 10x cheaper and 10x faster. The main reason is this day, most of the time, AI do most of the job for you. And for us, we consider the AI model had become commodity. Okay, don't go and compete with Meta or with OpenAI to build another foundation model. Okay, pick someone, customize them, and serve the need of, let's say, colon cancer or Parkinson or Alzheimer or anything. So we basically have most of that model ready for them to pick. Okay, so we call that is model as a service. Okay, AI model become commodity. You pick the AI model, you come to our platform, the human network has their own data, okay? And then you can train your own customized AI model to get a specialized model for you, a customized model for you, okay? Don't go foundation, go vertical. Okay, so training on the data is already labeled, already clean is for you. And then after that, you can create the product right away out of that customized model, and then you can launch the product on our marketplace. So we also provide a marketplace for newly launched product. So other people say, hey man, now I'm the best academic researcher on colon cancer, or let's say on Alzheimer, like whatever we, let's say pick Alzheimer because we are working with very closely with UCSF for the Alzheimer. So they are the top 5 in the world on Alzheimer research, right? They want to, they have that knowledge, the domain's expertise for the past 20 years or maybe like 30 years. And then the problem is they have a product and then they can deploy right away on our marketplace and they can sell it to like 100 or 100,000 to 1 million people right away. Okay, so deployment market is already for you. Okay, you don't have to do any of that. You only need your brain, the domain expertise. Okay, and you basically manifest that domain expertise, become a product. So pick the AI model, train it on our platform, deploy it on our marketplace. 3 basic steps, you get your product launched in, let's say, 3 to 4 weeks instead of like 24 months. Okay. And I leave it to David to talk about
how so to answer my own question. I love. Okay, great. What the whiteboard would actually show, because we mapped this out during the last fundraise, is that as the number of people who are on the network grows, it makes the number of services that can be sustainably delivered in the context of the marketplace also grow at the same time. So I think that I'm forgetting the statistics exactly, Tuan, but I think there's like 100,000. There's more now on the DNA side of things. And it started off with 1 service, and I think it's up to like 20 or 30 services now on the DNA side of things. So that's just one subvertical. If you begin to combine different human markers with different types of technology, the more and more lives you have on there, and the more ways those lives can be combined, the more and more rationale there is for someone to come and build on top of the network. And, just to reinforce, again, in this case, building on top of the network means accessing a coordinated set of services through the Life Network marketplace and APIs and SDKs. So nothing about block space, nothing about where you settle. It's what type of outcome can you generate? That's what this is focused on. We have aggressive targets here in terms of how many people we want on the network in 1 year and in 3 years and in 5 years. But the network becomes more robust economically as the number of lives increases, because it makes more services that people could potentially build economically sustainable. So I think that's what's important to recognize in the context of how this works. If you look at other human networks, if you like WorldCoin, for example, no one's building services on top of WorldCoin, right? This is for a very specific, that human network is for a very specific purpose. The purpose of this human network is much more generalized. It's within health, obviously, but once the network exists, lots of things can actually happen with it. I realized that one thing we never defined was what is decentralized science? Like, so I'm going to actually ask G this question because this will be a hard one for him. We talked about DeSci and stuff, but why is this a better way of getting to scientific outcomes? Like, we'll let G go first, and then we'll let Tuan clean up.
I'm going to do my best. I'll do my best, and you can get my response, Tuan. I think traditionally, healthcare data and genetic data is something that's been couple of things. One is siloed from hospital to hospital, or just even within your body. There's your genetic makeup, your biome is something that you might not even know. And if you do know, there's no way for other companies or other actors in the space to access that data. So whether it's in a hospital or literally just in your own body, there's no way to access it. There's no way to cross-reference it or study it or anything like that. So in a sense, I think historically patient data in the healthcare space has been siloed and inaccessible to innovations, to trials, things like that. So I think number one is decentralizing it. I mean, everything in crypto, you say decentralized, and it's just like, you know, it's like an unqualified positive. It's decentralized. Oh, it must be better. But I think specifically in the sciences space, it's something that can lead to more visibility, and from more visibility, more innovation. Because I think this is, you know, and I'm not in this space per se, but from what I know of it, a lot of the breakthroughs when it comes to this space, the medical industry and the sciences industry, comes from looking at data sets in new ways and cross-referencing outcomes with other studies and trials with people that never got exposure to them. So by opening up and shedding light on a larger data set and finding more ways to, I mean, the word of the day, interoperable, to make that data communicate with other types of data, I think from there, you get a whole new world of possibilities when it comes to cures, treatments, et cetera. So I think, you know, DeSci, I think it's, you know, there's been plenty of industries that have been decentralized, perhaps unnecessarily, or there's a marginal benefit. I think for sciences, decentralizing it actually has an exponential benefit that will only grow over time.
Now that's a strategy architect. Wow. Yeah. Look at that.
I got that question a lot. Okay, so definition of these studies, and I say, okay, man, to be honest, I cannot define like Giancarlo just said. I just give an example. Okay, for me, centralized science is like the Apple iOS. Okay, beautifully designed, written, controlled by a single entity. And then the decentralized science is like the Android of Google. So when everything is open source, the whole community own it. That's it. And the centralized science and decentralized science can co-live together. Similarly, like the Apple iOS and the Android, that two operating systems work really well together. Yeah, doesn't matter. Okay.
And Tuan, why, like, people have been talking about DeSci for a while now, and you know, it hasn't really hit that well, right? Like, why is what we're building here different? Like, why are you particularly excited about what we're, like, how we're improving on what other people have tried in the past?
Okay, so that's a great question, because at the end of the day, I think that we have to bring value. Okay, so for example, like DeFi, of course, it breaks the banking system and everybody can have their own money. Okay, and then on the RWA, real world access, very easy, real value add to the user. I think for decentralized science, I think one of the main reason, because it was like everything related to science is basically slow. But I think the main point is it needs to show that the value it creates. The moment the value it creates and the community realize the true value it creates, and then actually it will go way better. Okay, so in the past, most of the time, decentralized science just leverage crypto as a fundraising vehicle. Okay, so it's a very, very small part of the design community, right? But the decentralized science, basically, it had to prove that it brings value to the human. Okay, the moment it proves this, the moment, actually, the more I work on decentralized science and the human network, I love Balaji, his book on the network state. Yeah, and basically, like, the Balaji actually he defines a 7-step to create a new network state instead of like the nascent stage. And I consider the decentralized science, or at least in the healthcare, is a network state for healthcare. And one of the key points to really show that decentralized science will basically create a huge impact to the world is when it's recognized by other nascent states. So that's why when Microsoft or Google Health or Microsoft Health or Apple Health will basically recognize a contribution with the decentralized science project, and then we'll see a lot of projects will take off. Okay, so the main takeaway is the value it creates. Okay, if only you crypto as a fundraising vehicle, it will go to the roadblock at some point. Speculation work at the beginning, but it will not last long. Okay, true value, real value to the human will last forever.
So I think that's completely. I agree with that. So you got to create outcomes here, and that's why we're here. Having these conversations. It's not great to launch a token just for a token's sake. If you're going to use a token, use it to bootstrap network effects around things that actually matter, and that requires having a product that people actually need and want, and people to actually utilize those products. So that's what I think is a big innovation in terms of what Life Network is doing in the DeSci space, is it is explicitly trying to match the supply of resources people need to the demand for those resources that people also need. So I think it's a different way of thinking about what the purpose here is of a base layer network. I do want to flag at this point, we've got a small giveaway here to celebrate this AMA. So if you check out the AVX Fusion X profile, we're going to pick the winner by 5 o'clock. So there's a little giveaway here, just to make this a little bit more interesting. Just wanted to flag that for people.
Okay. I guess also since we're coming a little bit close to time, I'll start. I want to ask you kind of a little bit about what you're excited about coming into the future now. Let's say within the next 12 months, like what's getting you out of bed, Tuan?
Okay, so basically, I go back to the network stage. That not only is the value we create for the human, but live AI should be recognized by other giants in, let's say, Web 1 or Web 2 stage. So that's why the moment Microsoft or Google or NVIDIA realize that, okay, they can work with live AI to make drug discovery 10 times faster, 10 times cheaper, that is a win. Okay. Another way we look at this is Microsoft. They announced Microsoft DxO. So basically, they say, hey, we can create a doctor AI, right? That's really good, right? And in developing country, there's a huge problem with lacking of doctor, right? Lacking of physician. Basically, like one doctor will be associated with about like 10,000 people. But the moment we have a virtual doctor, and everyone will have their own doctor like in their pocket. You pick it up, not only a generalist, but a specialist doctor to come with you everywhere. Okay, and that's the beauty of basically AI life sciences. And then basically the Microsoft may actually started this, let's say this trend or this suggestion, but I believe that in live AI and other similar company can actually make it happen for, let's say, a more needed country, let's say the developing country. So this day when we was talking with Microsoft, we say, hey, we follow your framework, yes. And then we believe that we can actually provide that applications of value to like 3 billion people in developing country. Okay, so you can work in the US, in the European country and so on, but for developing country where even they don't have the EMR, the medical record, there's no electric medical record. How can you get access? How do you pull up the data? How you can actually diagnose for the people, and how you can prevent the disease before it happens? Okay, in the US, everything is electronic version. You can get a digital copy, you can run the AI on this. But in developing countries, that's basic things you don't have. How can you make the AI work? So that's why I believe in the power of community, the power of decentralized science, where they bring everything come together. And that is something that wake me up at night, because I want to prove to the Microsoft Health and Google Health that, yes, you can create one of the best technology in the world, but we will be the people to provide that one to like 3 billion people in the developing country. Okay.
That's absolutely beautiful, Tuan. David, I see already unmuted, says perfect timing. I'm going to ask you the same question, my friend. You got the floor.
Well, I mean, I'm like super fortunate because I get to work with amazing people like Tuan and Chi and the other folks involved in Fusion to really do things that are going to make a meaningful difference. So we've talked about the purpose of the tech, like the potential of blockchain technology. I've been in this space for, I guess, almost a decade now, which is crazy. And I feel like what gets me excited is working with really smart people to try to solve really hard problems that ultimately could make a big difference. And I think that what you're going to see with folks who are associated and involved in different parts of Fusion, including folks like G and John Nahas and the extended Avalanche team, is that I think that that's what people are excited about here, is really getting to a place where not only that the infrastructure goes mainstream. Yeah, we're nerds. We care about this type of stuff, but most people don't. It's that you can get to better outcomes that are more equal, more efficient, and push the world forward in a meaningful type of way. So that's why it's very easy. This doesn't feel like work for me. I would do it, it's nice to get paid for it, but it doesn't feel like work because you get to hang out with really smart people and be a part of collaborating with them to make really interesting things happen. So I think we all feel, I can speak for myself and I think for other people, we all feel very fortunate to be able to have the opportunity to work on cool things and difficult things.
David, 100% agree, man. I actually really appreciate you for kind of pointing that out here. We're living the dream right now, my friend. Right now I'm on a podcast with you folks right now, learning about something that, I might not have learned about, had I not been able to come on, had you folks not been able to come on. So for one thing, I want to say thank you folks so much for being willing to pop on and educate me on what's going on. And then also I want to say, man, thank you so much for what you folks are building. I'm going to round things off and I'm going to pass it over to Giancarlo here. What are you most excited about for the next 12 months, Giancarlo? What's getting you out of bed, my friend?
Yeah. For those who, some people may know, for those who don't, our founders, Emin Sirer, and his white paper for Avalanche 5+ years ago outlined pretty much what we're now stepping into, which I mentioned earlier a bit, but it's this sort of ecosystem of layer ones that, one of our slogans at Avalanche, and Brivi, this is many chains acting as one. So it's not many siloed chains that happen to run on the Avalanche network. They're all interconnected. They can all communicate with each other. And the way I think of it with Avalanche is that it's unlike other chains, no shade obviously, but unlike other chains where it's just incrementally things are built and they're built and they're built, where 1 + 1 = 2. With Avalanche, it's 1 + 1 = 3, where everything that's new invites something else to be built on it. And I think Life is a great example of it, where it's not just that, oh great, we have Life Network on Avalanche, but there's all sorts of things, and these are the modules in the Fusion system that can plug in, communicate, and not just things in Web 3, but things in Web 2 that can enter Web 3 because they now have an economy to step into and to monetize whatever it is they do, their data, their storage, etc. So with Avalanche, it's not this kind of incremental slow march towards a network. It's this sort of hockey stick effect where eventually you get to a critical mass. We have enough of these composers in the Fusion system, but even in general, this is sort of how Avalanche was built to begin with. The NEL1 in theory follows the same principle, that you invite more building around that can be built on top of it. And of course, it's all plugged into the Avalanche system. So the way Avalanche was architected 5 years ago is what we're now, to quote John Nahas, our chief business officer, it's the walk, crawl, and now we're finally entering the run moment of Avalanche, where it's all starting to come together, and we have this great basis, this very quickly growing basis of layer ones that aren't just incrementally adding to the network, they're inviting completely new economies to enter the system. So it's 1 + 1 = 3, and then hopefully 1 + 1 = 10, and then in another few years 1 + 1 = 100. So it's really exciting to start to see that coming to life on Avalanche.
You are muted.
Talking to no one, just talking to myself. Sorry, guys.
Can I add one thing about what Giancarlo was saying? because this like when Professor Emin Gunsirer, the founder of Avalanche, he went to talk, and people may look at him as a businessman, but he actually like a super visionary technologist. Okay, so let me tell you some story in the early day, like before Bitcoin. Okay, before the Bitcoin time, actually Professor Emin Gunsirer started a blockchain even like before Bitcoin. Okay, at an academic, like even like during his professorship at Cornell or even before that. And also he brought up to the trusted execution environment, the concept of trusted execution environment into blockchain in like 2008, 2010, like in the very early day. These days, people talk a lot about like ZKP, about TEE, but like 20 years, like 15 years ago, Professor Emin Gunsirer already like basically introduced that concept into the blockchain ecosystem. So that's why like a lot of people taking for granted that Professor Emin Gunsirer is a very good speaker, but he's actually a super visionary technologist person. And I really believe that Avalanche can make a breakthrough in technology to bring blockchain to the masses. Yeah.
Really, really appreciate you for saying that, Tuan. And I want to say, man, hats off, dude. Like this is absolutely major. From what I understand, someone who is like a specialist in the field can pop onto your platform, build out a product that specializes in this thing. Let's say it's cancer. We specialize in breast cancer. Someone who has breast cancer who may be in like a remote country who doesn't have access to a doctor can actually go on virtual doctor and actually, get some sort of help. And I think what you folks have built is absolutely beautiful. And like John Carlos said, it is like a 1 + 1 = 3,000 actually, really at this point, especially since you've made, since you've actually lowered the time that it takes to actually develop these products out. So just want to say, man, hats off to you and the rest of the team. David, hats off to you and the team as well for what you folks have built. And then John Carlo, my man, you already know, man, hats off to what, you Avalanche folks are doing out there, which would include myself.
Including you, yes, that's correct.
I can pat myself on the back sometimes. Right. And for everyone out there, man, thank you folks so much for checking us out today. If you joined a little bit late, I do not recommend that you just say, that's okay, nothing happened in the beginning. Nope, everything happened in the beginning, in the middle, and the end. You want to make sure that you check out everything that happened today because you don't want to miss any of the information that we talked about today. I'm also going to help you folks out really quick and put this at the bottom. Boom! Right there. Make sure you're following at @LifeNetwork_AI and AVAX Fusion. And then I'm going to give you folks a little bit of a pro tip. Hey, come here. Look, put on bell notifications, my friends, bell notifications. That will get you notified anytime these lovely folks tweet something out so that you can make sure that you stay up to date with everything that is happening. Again, man, thank you folks so much for being willing to pop on. For my folks out there who kind of like tuned in late, don't worry, I'm going to get this up on Spotify, Toot Sweet, my friends, so you can check it out there. All right, I'm going to end this thing by simply saying peace.